Off-road SUVs and vehicles are becoming a hot trend in the car market, and Honda does not want to be left behind. Today we have the most rugged offering that you can get from Honda. The 2026 Passport has a load of changes, both mechanical and style-wise. So let's dig into this adventure-ready 2026 Honda Passport and see if it lives up to the hype. Are these new changes worth it, or should you stick with the last generation? Let's find out. Before we go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to Honda of Lisle for letting us come by today and check out the 2026 Honda Passport TrailSport. If you're in the Chicagoland area and you need anything from Honda, I strongly suggest you check out hondaoflisle.com to take care of all of your Honda needs. Starting off in the front, the 2026 Honda Passport actually looks like its own vehicle, not just a rebranded Pilot. But I actually do like the changes. It's boxier, more aggressive, and it just looks a lot more rugged overall. In the front, you can also see that they're actually taking quite a bit of inspiration from Bronco, as we have the ginormous Passport embedded into the front bumper, a huge Honda logo, and of course a little bit of TrailSport branding, but we do have some other things that are interesting and functional on the front of the car. Here we do have a fake hood scoop that also raises the hood. Now this does impact visibility quite a bit, and also it's not functional, so there's not really much of a point to it. It's just for style points, but it doesn't look bad. I just think that could have gone away with it. After all, it is an off-road vehicle, so you really want visibility. Visibility is king there. But below there, we do have some functional vents. We've also got some functional vents over here around the logo, and we've got a front-facing camera and some trail cams below as well. What we also have, though, is two bright orange tow hooks, and they are actually functional too. But what's interesting about them is Honda actually designed them so that if you get a front-end collision, they will collapse so that they don't just tear apart the car that you unfortunately hit. Aside from that, though, we do have some very cool daytime running lights and a tri-beam LED headlight. Overall, I would say the front end looks much meaner, looks much more practical, and like it's fit for the trail. Coming around to the side, though, we do have some more plastic cladding around the wheel well, and we've got very beefy 18-inch wheels with all-terrain tires on them straight from the factory, so that's nice. Coming back further, we do just have piano black side view mirrors with the plastic bottom. We do have 360 cameras all the way around here, and lane departure warning and blind spot monitoring, all that built right into the mirror. We've got some piano black door handles, and they are big, very beefy. Along the bottom of the side of the Passport, we do have more of that plastic skirting so that if you're scraping on things or whatever you're doing on the trail, it's at least not damaging your paint. Up above, though, we do have roof racks straight from the factory as well. Coming back further, we do have our gas cap, and then also you'll notice that up here above our rear window, it's actually plastic. Now, Honda said that they did that so that if you have anything long that you want to lean against the car, whether it be skis or a snowboard or a surfboard, whatever you're doing outside, you can lean that up there so you don't scratch the paint. Well, not a bad idea, I guess. At the rear of the Passport, we do have a ginormous Passport that's embossed into the back, just like it is in the front. Again, more of that homage to Bronco. We've got a palm-sized Honda emblem right here in the center, a large like indentation for where your license plate goes, some parking sensors, and a really big rear window. And some very typical rear taillights. Nothing really to write home about there. And also in the rear, you do get a Class 3 tow hitch. But you also get touchless entry, so you can just kind of kick down here and it'll pop right open. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it did. But in the back, since this is only a two-row SUV, you get a ton of room back here. It actually competes pretty well with the 4Runner in terms of space back here. So you can do a huge trip to Costco, or you can get some stuff and go camping, whatever you want to do. In the back, though, we do also have some power, so we've got a 115-volt power outlet there, and then we've got some storage spots on both sides, another one here and over there, and also you can pull this up and look at that, you got a tire, and also some Easter eggs in the form of mountains. But what really matters is that Honda left us a banana, because all Passports eat are bananas. So let's see how the rear tailgate does up against a banana. It ate it. It is true. Passports do indeed eat bananas. Well, that about wraps up the exterior of the 2026 Honda Passport. Let's hop into the inside and see if they livened it up a little bit, because in recent years, a lot of people have complained that it's just pretty dull and boring on the interior of the Passport. On the inside of the 2026 Honda Passport, if you didn't like the prior years, don't get too excited, because in 2026 it's a lot of the same. We've got a really dark black interior, but since this is the TrailSport edition, we do have some orange stitching. But on the door panel here, we have lots of black, like I said, but you do get some soft touch injection molding, and you get one-touch operations for all of your windows. Love to see that. And of course, your side view mirror controls, you can also fold them in, and you've got 2 memory functions for your front seat, and a little bit of style right here in like a black plastic piece that looks cool and geometric and stuff. But other than that, you get tons of different storage spots. So you've got 3 different sections that you can put stuff. No special door sill, but you do have 10-way powered seats, so that's nice. And because this is the Elite trim, you also have perforated seats. In the other trims, you will not. But hopping in, on the interior of the 2026 Honda Passport, it's just functional, right? It's not a whole lot of pizzazz, it's not a whole lot of style, it's just practical and functional. So on the steering wheel itself, we don't have a whole lot going on. On the left-hand side, we've got our multimedia controls. On the right-hand side, we've got our driver's assistance functions. Below that, on the bottom, we do have a heated steering wheel button, so that's pretty nice at least. Unfortunately, on the Passport, you do not get powered steering wheel oscillation, but you do have a manual lever so that you can adjust it however you see fit. You just have to actually work for it and do it yourself. Beyond the steering wheel though, we do have a couple paddle shifters. On the left hand side, our stock is just for lights, very typical. On the right hand side, we've got our rear and front window washers, so that's nice. Beyond there, we do have an 8-inch digital gauge cluster with different menus you can flip through and all that. Beyond our paddle shifters, we do have somewhat rather typical stocks. On the left hand side, we've got our lights. On the right hand side, we have our front and rear window washers, but also on the right hand side, we've got a button for our 360 view cameras. And also, it is much better than it has been in recent years. You know, in recent years, the Honda cameras were nothing to be proud of. But this looks much better, much more responsive as well, but we'll get there in a minute. On the left-hand side to the steering wheel here, we can open up our rear liftgate and we can heat up our front window. So that's great. All right, now to the right of our steering wheel, we do have our push start button, a big Passport logo there, a physical volume knob and power button, so that's cool. And then we've got our 12.3-inch infotainment center with Google Maps built in. You got wireless Android Auto, wireless Apple CarPlay, and it's much more responsive than it has been in previous years, so that's pretty nice. Also, because this is a trail sport, you do get trail cams, like I was mentioning earlier, and these trail cams work up to about 15 miles per hour. So if you go faster than that, they will shut off, but other than that, at least you can see what you're doing on the trail. You shouldn't be going 40 on the trail anyways. But below the infotainment center, we've got our hazard button and then physical controls for our heating and air. Love to see that. Also, the front seats do have ventilated seats and heated seats, so that's a nice addition as well. Got this tiny little pocket here that's basically good for nothing, but below there, we do have something that's useful. We got a wireless charging pad and a nice little rubberized and textured area here to put more stuff. Beyond that is my least favorite thing of the Honda Passport. So let's have a moment of silence for all the lost gear shifters. Because in this one, you only have buttons, and I'm not a fan. But you can go park, reverse, neutral, and drive. That's all you get. But you do also have some drive mode selectors where you can go economy, snow, trail, sand, tow mode, and sport mode. So you get tons of different options there beyond our silly buttons for our gear selector. And next to our drive mode selector, we do have the auto start turn off button, which we always hit every time we get into a car. And then we've got our downhill acceleration control, our electronic parking brake, and that lovely brake hold button that new cars have, and my 2006 doesn't. But then we've got a nice big center console here, and you can store all the things in there because it is huge. You could fit like a 12-pack of water in there for the trail. Speaking of a spot to put things, on the right-hand side of the dash, you've got another little cubby spot for you to put more things because, like I said, they want you to take all your things. But up above the infotainment center, we've got an auto-dimming rear view mirror, and that's all it is. No home link buttons, no digital rear view mirror, anything like that. You only get to see Uncle Steve. But above our rear view mirror, we've got a couple dome lights, and then our controls so that the dome lights do come on when we open the door. We've got the controls for our sunroof, which is massive and panoramic, so that's always great. We've got an SOS button in the event that you get in a little bit of a pickle, and then we've got a spot to put our sunglasses. So not too bad, all practical. And then the seats also have TrailSport embossed on the headrest because I forgot to mention that earlier. Now, you'll be surprised that the 2026 Passport's second row is actually quite nice. The door panel is styled just like the one in the front, so you got those same cubbies, the same orange stitching, and the same geometric black thing. But what you don't have up front that you do have in the back are some sunshades. That way, while Uncle Steve's driving, I can take a nap. But hopping into the rear seat, it's actually pretty comfortable, and you got tons of room back here. Currently, this is in Uncle Steve's driving position, and as we all know, he's like 10'4", so I've got tons of room back here. Actually, they did make the interior of the 2026 Passport a little bit larger, so you gained about 1.3 inches of legroom in the second row here. And then you get two different pouches on both of the seats here, so that's interesting. I don't know what you really do with this one. I guess like put your phone in it and watch a movie or something. Aside from that, we do have our own heating and air controls back here, as well as a 115-volt outlet and two Type-C USB ports. So all the power you could possibly need. And what else you need in those freezing Midwest winters are some heated seats, which the second row also has. But you can fold this down, get your drink on, and just relax while Uncle Steve takes care of the rest. Now, like Uncle Steve just pointed out, one thing the Passport is missing that it really should use, especially while he's chauffeuring me all around town, the rear seat doesn't recline. I'm just stuck in this position for the rest of my time. But it is pretty comfortable, pretty spacious. I've got tons of headroom back here, tons of knee room. I could spend quite a while back here, especially with these heated seats. All right, well, that's enough talking about the interior and exterior of the 2026 Honda Passport. Let's get this bad boy on the road and see how this newly tuned and redefined suspension is. All right, now we're behind the wheel of the 2026 Honda Passport TrailSport Elite. That's a lot of ports, but you know, first impressions are the drive's not bad. It's a nice, comfortable drive, especially. The seat's not too bad, but I do have some complaints. My number one complaint is the gear selector. Why is there not a stick? One thing I'm not a big fan of is the steering. The steering is pretty lifeless. There's not a whole lot going on there. It's just like there's no real weight behind it. It's just kind of loosey-goosey.
And what else you don't like? Man, it seems like you have a lot of complaint about this car, huh?
Actually, overall, I like it. I think that they finally made it look a little bit better. You know, the older ones, they really just looked like pilots with a different name on it. So this at least stands out and it feels like its own vehicle. Personally, being a fan of 4Runners and Land Cruisers and Range Rovers and all that, I actually really dig how the exterior looks. I like the blocky.
I do like the look too. I would say Honda did a good job for designing the exterior.
I would agree. What they didn't do a good job at, though, is tuning some of these different driving modes, because the sport driving mode seems very poorly tuned.
Damn, so it kind of jerks a lot when you accelerate and decelerate.
Yeah, and it, like, you barely touch it, and it just kind of like takes off a little bit and then dies down. Yeah, it's not great. But other than that, the acceleration's really not all that bad. The brakes are also brakes. They're kind of squishy. You don't have to push them real far, and they just work. So not going to complain about that too much. And I'm also not going to complain about the visibility other than out the front, because the hood scoop doesn't make any sense. It offers no value, and it makes the visibility worse. But you do have that massive rear window in the back that definitely helps with visibility, as well as the huge windows going all the way across the side of the car. I could see out them all pretty well, except for the one that Uncle Steve's head's in the middle of. Other than that, though, there are a suite of driving features that we can use as well if we want, such as lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. And then, like I mentioned, you've got your blind spot monitoring, your lane departure warnings, and that's about it. Overall, I would say that the drive's not bad. It feels a little less SUV-like than I expected. It's not quite as good of a drive as, like, say, a 4Runner. I might be a little biased, but Yeah, at least it does have the V6 and not a turbocharged four-cylinder.
Yeah, that's one thing I really, for some people, really good because all these new cars forcing the turbocharge.
Yeah.
They want the V6 and the V8, and this Honda still keep the V6, and I'm gonna talk more about it, about the engine.
Yes, you are. So let's get you in the driver's seat so you can tell us all about this powertrain and the other new things that they added that make this off-road capable.
So I'm so excited about test driving this car. I really like the design. It's totally different than the last generation. But the funny part is, compared to the non-off-road Passport, it's only have 0.2 inches higher.
What more do you need?
I don't know if it's from the tire or from the suspension itself.
It's not the size that counts, it's the motion of the ocean.
Okay. Well, besides that, they have a off-road suspension.
But you've also got upgraded knuckles, control arm, got some skid plates to protect that fuel tank.
Yeah, the skid plate is good. It's nice to have. Well, the engine is pretty much the same for the past, 5 years, 10 years. It's a 3.5 V6, no turbo, non-hybrid. But this year have 5 more horsepower, which is 285. Last generation 280, and Honda Pilot in 2001 is still 280 with a 3.5 liter V6. Pretty much the same engine.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yep. Yeah, don't put a four-cylinder turbo, please. So for the torque, it's about 267 foot-pound of torque. This year, they changed the transmission from 9-speed to 10-speed automatic transmission. 0 to 60 is it sounds like slower, for the past generation. For the past generation of Pilot, that come with 280 horsepower. So it's about 6.5 seconds, 0 to 60. And then last year, on paper, it's all over the place from 5.9 to 6.9.
That's all over the place.
That's all over the place, yeah. But sure, the 2021 Honda Pilot is 6.3. So a little bit slower than 2001 Honda Pilot. So for the mile per gallon, it's not that good compared to today's standard. In today's standard, it's not that good. It's 18 on city and 23 on the highway. Last generation is 17, so only improve 1 mile per gallon.
But it's not a hybrid.
It's not a hybrid, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I think that's okay. 18 miles per gallon on a non-hybrid SUV?
Yeah.
That's not too bad. You keep talking about this Pilot you have. How does this compare driving-wise?
It's very close to it. It's like almost identical.
Yeah.
But my Pilot doesn't have this. It doesn't have sport mode.
Really?
It's sport shifting, and you have on the Select I have D and S, so that's it.
Okay.
And it does sound the same actually. Honda.
Well, it's the same engine.
Yeah, it's the same as shit, right? But I was thinking about have different exhaust system.
Right.
That's all for this special trim, off-road trim.
Yeah.
After all, I do like it. If I want to buy it, how much would that be? I want this trim.
This trim, exactly. The TrailSport Elite. This bad boy is going to cost you 54,000 buckaroos out the door. It's a little expensive, especially considering what you're not getting, I guess, in ways. For an off-road vehicle, it's got no rear diff, no locking differentials. However, it does have systems in it that act like a locking differential, which I don't like the sounds of that whatsoever.
Yeah, see, me too. I'm the same page as you. They call it off-road, but they don't have a lot of off-road feature. So there will more people want to buy that instead of just buying for their spouse.
Yeah, I feel like this is more geared towards a family that wants to go out to the park.
Or camping.
Yeah, or camping. I could see this being pulled behind an RV. But no, the 2026 Passport, it's actually a pleasant upgrade, I would say. The new redesign, I think they did a pretty solid job. And again, don't fix what ain't broke. No need to go put in a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine or hybrid system or anything ridiculous. Just keep it the V6.
I think they should keep it, but you continue improving the horsepower, because 5 horsepower, that's ridiculous. But the most ridiculous thing, 5 horsepower, and it's slower than the last generation.
That's definitely a problem. So you'll have to let us know when you go test drive it what you think of the 2026 Honda Passport. Is that 5 horsepower even worth it? Should you just stick with the 2025 model that's faster and has less horsepower? Hey, it's something to think about. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.